Now, we talked about looking at the painting and finding areas of interest. A nice thing that you can use is a chalk. You can use a piece of chalk if you like. And this is a great learning tool where you start isolating decisions that you might want to make. And I told you earlier that I love this area here with the motion, so I can isolate it. Or I can say, oh, I like this area, and I isolate it. This gives you the opportunity also to do shading or to do line work. And so I can use chalk to say, what if I took this line that is brown on top of white, and what if I start taking it white on top of the brown? What if this white area moves over and expands and starts giving me shape to break this canvas up? I'll also put this in the bio description. You can go and find this on Amazon. It's like, I think it was like $6 for this. But you can, the neat thing about it is, oh, I don't like this. Maybe I don't like this. You can just take it away. You can just take it away. And if you have a mister, I recommend having a bottle of water with you. You can just take it away very easily. Now, there are reasons that you might want to have a painting have all in the same family of color, but I have found that having a lot of contrasting colors is interesting. Now, I don't know where it's going to lead me. Did you hear that? I don't know where it's going to lead me. Now, the line work would lead me to an end very quickly, because I could see that when I did that Asemic line work, it was telling me where to go very quickly. But as we talked about in the first video, your job is not to rush to an end, right? Your job is not to finish. Your job is to extend this playful area of who knows what this is going to be as long as possible. I think that is why I have been able to discover different styles that I would call Chris Miller styles. I have several different styles which come out of being playful and staying in this space of not knowing. See, if you rush to the end, if you rush to the solution, then you're going down the same path. And your artwork is always going to look the same. As a spiritual artist, we want to expand this time and find new ways of expression. We want to expand the time and find new ways of expression. And so, let me see here. I've decided to show you that I'm not going to rush this painting to an end. I'm going to take some white and mix it in with a turquoise because I feel that blue would be really pretty. Now, there are some rules about this. Blue and orange are opposite on the color wheel, so they go great together. And maybe that's why I chose it, but I really chose it because it just felt good. And that's what I want to teach you. I want to teach you how to paint because it feels good. And I just thought, okay, I want to break this up. There's too much orange going on. And this is when you can use a bright color and just block out. You know, you can use gesso to do this, and I actually would recommend that. I'm going to tell you why too. Or you can just use a color. But because it's dry, it sits on top of the darker color, and it lets you block out. Now, I just decided that blue is a great complement, an opposite to the orange. It was something I felt instinctively, but there is a color theory behind it. Now, what you do, what I'm trying to teach you as a spiritual artist is to just feel something. Feel it. Feel it. Oh, well, what happened if I mix a darker blue in? What if I don't blend the white in? What if I let some darks come in? Now, there is a point where this painting is going to get really, really like out there. I don't know where it's going to go. But once again, isn't that the fun part? Don't we want to be in that place of not knowing? Don't we want to see how can this turn into something interesting? And it might take weeks, or it might be something that comes to fruition. I can't control that. All I can do is be present and trust my instinct. Trust my instinct. And so I'm looking at this and I'm feeling green. I'm feeling, oh, I know, you're probably thinking, holy heck, but I'm feeling some green. And so I have some colors here. I have a variety of paints here, a variety of manufacturers, and I just think some bright green might really jazz in and add a different dimension to this. And so I'm going to show you that I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. Now, what I did is I'm using fluorescent green, okay? And I mixed it with a little bit of that blue that I had on my palette. So it picks up a little bit of a blue. So it has some blue in it. So it's not just pure green. But as you can see, I'm really just being sloppy and kind of mark making. This is mark making, and you can see this is the Asemic Writing that's just coming out. Now, in my video where I talked to you about how to create and start paintings, I'm going to talk about the 3 different ways. This is using line work to build your structure. Every painting is grouped shapes that come together. And in this case, we're not together at all. But what I would like to tell you, I have noticed lately, and while teaching, that a lot of people love to paint big like me. Here's a tip. If you're painting big, you need to start increasing the size of your brush. So I oftentimes will see people, they learn on a small brush, right? And then they come into this and they're going, you need a bigger brush. So think about this. The larger your canvas gets, the bigger your brush gets. It doesn't mean you only use a big brush. You want differing line work. You want to use large, medium, and narrow brushes. Experiment with those as mark making tools because they will help you fill in areas quicker. This is just a pet peeve of mine. I like to always fill in white space of the canvas in the early stages of a painting, and I'll tell you why. Because that white will draw the eye when someone sees your final painting. And so I like to make sure that I have good coverage. Now, I might bring the white back. I might actually bring a white on top, let it dry, and bring a white back. But I don't want the canvas. Now, and I will tell you, I've gone to wonderful museums of some of the famous artists, and you can see the canvas or the paper coming through, and that's definitely a look, and it's definitely a choice, okay? So. But, and I will tell you one other tip that's from me. If you're using canvas and you have a side, don't be afraid in the early stages to paint the sides as well. Did you hear that? Now, you might come back and decide that you want the sides of your canvas to be black or white, but in Dallas, they love to have the artwork coming around the corner. And if you start, you need to pay attention to the edges. Pay attention to the edges as you go, or you're going to have a hard time matching them to the front. So that's a tip for you, is to paint the edges as you go, okay? So that's what I'm doing here. I'm filling in these edges. Now, like I said, what you should be realizing when you do an abstract is you want to create what's called story. You want to have layers of color, layers of history. It's just like you. Just like in your life, there's a story to you. What happened to you when you were a kid? How did you deal with your first relationship? How did you go to college? All those things that make you a richer, more interesting person. Same thing here. You want to have a story so that you can actually scratch out and remove, well, this is a little too dry, but yeah, it's going down. You can remove some of these layers and see the colors coming from below. That's what makes a painting interesting, is those stories of color coming from below.